Hello everyone, I'm DonTheCrown, and today I want to talk about my version of the Lightning Strike Warden. This is not something that's like an original work by me in any shape or form. This is something I've definitely looked at a lot of people on the Pro Ninja trees and kind of like looked to see what other people are doing. Also had a lot of help from Fubgun's guide just for like leveling up and just setting up the initial stuff. But I just kind of want to give you a little bit of my general breakdown of it. So if you don't know already, Lightning Strike is basically this melee attack where you shoot out these lightning shots basically, and thanks to returning projectiles they come back to us, and you can kind of shotgun with them a little bit as long as you hit walls at like different angles. If they all like go the same distance and come back to you, I think they all hit at the same time, which wouldn't allow that shotgun. And we're using Nightblade support because we're using a claw, and so we're going to pretty much on the claw be looking for things that are like flat fire, flat lightning, flat cold. All of these are really good. And with rune crafting, you can even add more flat damage. As you can see here, I also got attack speed and critical strike. The increased physical damage is kind of like an unfortunate here. The intelligence is actually pretty nice because I need a lot of intelligence in the rest of my gear. And yeah, it's just general type of gear. I have a doppelganger's Geist or Goose or whatever you want to call it here. And this pretty much gives you a skill that allows you to flip between being insane or sane. We stick insane the entire time, so you don't even have to put this on your bar. Just gives us less physical and chaos damage taken all of the time. And we also get some life regeneration on hit while we're sane. I do want to point out though that that last line does count as a life modifier. So if you're using the life node, I think it is where, I think it's an evasion node where you get life if your chest armor doesn't have a life mod on it. Doppelgangers won't count for that, so you can't use that. Before that, I was using a body armor that looks a lot like, I think I might have sold it. Oh, here it is. So using a chest that looks a lot like this, just resistances, evasion, and chance to avoid ailments. We're using the taming rings. These are really good. They give you a lot of resistances and increase elemental damage with hits or ailments for each type of elemental ailment on the enemy. And we do apply a ton of them. Right now I'm using Lycosa today. It's just a cheap way to make sure you're hitting all the time. And then just general rares here where we have like life and res. Up here we've got critical strike multi, life, more res, definitely focusing on chaos res up here, and minus cost of skills. And the only thing right now that I'm kind of unhappy about is on my gloves. I have not been able to get a good Exarch modifier. I think I want rage here. I know a lot of people go and try to get the additional strike. I think rage is probably one of the only good spots here in the entire build to get rage, which I'll talk about in a bit. For the tree, you can check it all out in the POB, but we're playing Warden. If you're not familiar with this class because it's brand new, basically when we would ignite, we instead scorch enemies and scorch. So you're going to inflict an additional scorch on each enemy. So you can go up to 2 of them. And scorch enemies have their elemental resistances lowered by up to 30%. Based on the fire damage of the hit for 4 seconds. And so every single time, basically, we would be igniting instead we're scorching and lower their resistances. We're also making it so that anytime we freeze enemies, they are always going to go frozen for 2 seconds. And any hits that fail to freeze inflict Hoarfrost, which I believe makes it more likely for you to freeze anyways. Now note, this has a massive invisible downside to it, and that is they added mods to not rare, but magic monsters this particular season, allow them to reflect some ailments back to you, and freeze is one of them. So anytime you hit one of these guys, you're going to reflect a 2-second plus freeze onto yourself, which is very scary. So what you want to do is go and make sure that you get a chance to avoid being frozen. Very important to get that in your pantheon. Lastly, we have Oath of Spring here. This pretty much makes it so that the maximum effective shock is only 2% increased damage taken, but we can apply up to 50 stacks of this, so it's like doubling our damage. All you have to do is hit the enemy a ton, which our build is very good at doing. And then Avatar of the Wilds is kind of a weird one. What this does is it gives you a little button on your bar, and when you inflict enough ailments on enemies, you can go unbound, which makes you always inflict freeze, shock, and ignite while unbound, and you are going to be doing 80% additional damage while unbound. I just put it on my bar like so. You do need to manually activate this, and it does kind of have a large downtime if you're not hitting a ton of enemies that are like living, But if you are hitting stuff that is like staying alive, it's going to charge up a lot faster because obviously you're going to be applying a lot more ailments during that time. And so you can just kind of keep spamming this whenever you want. Just kind of get into the gameplay here. I'm just going to go run a random map here with the Phoenix. We'll save this for the Maven. But I'm using for movement skill right now, Whirling Blades. I see a lot of people using Shield Charge. I don't really like Shield Charge comparatively because you kind of need movement speed with that. Whereas Whirling Blades is pretty good. Frostblink to help you get over walls. We have Blood Rage. We have Lightning Strike. We have Vol Lightning Strike, which is really sick. You can get up to 2 of these down on the ground at a time and just fires off a ton of projectiles. And then messing around with Sigil of Power as another button here. First, just gives you flat damage when you're standing in it, but depending on the stages. And so you just have to spend mana to charge it up. And this thing, I believe, is going to last for about 16 seconds with my current setup. So yeah, I guess we can do some Delirium. I feel like Delirium is a little scary. This build, like I said, is a little bit squishy. Now, one thing to note too, there's that squishy. One thing to note is that you do want to activate your Tincture as you are running around, and it's kind of difficult to tell when exactly your Tincture is down. And pretty much what I just look for is if I haven't hit it recently, I just hit it again, and yeah, kind of hope. You can kind of look at your debuff bar to see if you have Mana Drain active or Mana Burn active, and that can kind of like help you keep track of it. But that thing does do a lot of damage while it's up. So I highly recommend it. And like basically anytime you find an elite that like doesn't instantly explode, I will pop my Unbound because that's like going to basically double your damage according to POB, which is just pretty good. We also have like Tornado on, ooh, these are a lot of guys. This is teleporting on top of them. I'll click this thing. And so I'm right over here. That's the Vol Lightning Strike going off. It's a pretty good thing to drop, especially when you're going to be doing anything that has a lot of enemies spawning that can be a little bit scary. And I will just pop that pretty regularly. Especially like things like essences here. I'll just kind of pop everything. I'll just kind of pop everything. You're really just looking to freeze enemies before they're able to really stop you. I'm not going to stop for Cassia, unfortunately. But right now I'm farming Blight, and it's been pretty okay, despite the fact that they recently nerfed it. I'm just going to let this Delirium go up to 1 more stack. Or maybe we're not going to get it. Okay. I would like to drop a portal here. We're going to go in. And we just pop all of our cooldowns, and yeah, later. So as you can see, the build does pretty okay. The damage is all right. There's definitely some room to grow still. I recently replaced my belt here with this particular one. I was using a like leveling belt basically since like level 30 that I found on the ground. And it does a lot of work. So Prism Weave is something you can start using at level 25. And this thing is actually really, really busted for the build. It gives you a ton of flat damage and a ton of resistances and even more damage. And Lightning Strike itself has an effectiveness of added damage at level 20 of 456 for just the regular, and then 237 for Vol. And so that's just a lot of work here. I highly recommend if you're going to level up with this build, get yourself one of these. It's going to help out massively. I'll put a link for the POB down in the description down below. Let me know what you guys think. Sorry, this isn't like a super flushed out build guide, but just kind of like make sure I kind of get my build out there for you guys because I know a lot of you have been asking. I'm thinking about probably cooking something else up here pretty soon, but we are getting pretty close to the next season of Diablo 4, which I'm pretty excited about as well, especially because they're reworking every single unique, which I think sounds really, really cool. Hope you guys have a good one, and we'll see you guys soon.